Imagine this for a moment. You walk into a cafe in a new country, order your coffee, say something casual to the barista, and the person smiles and asks, "Are you from here?" You laugh and say, "No, I'm not." And they reply, "Really? You sound like a native speaker." That warm, surprising moment is the feeling every language learner secretly dreams about. Not perfect grammar, not a giant vocabulary, not sounding advanced, but sounding natural, sounding confident, sounding like English is not just something you study, but something that lives inside you. The truth is, sounding like a native speaker is not magic, not a talent, not a gift reserved for a special few. It is a skill, and like every skill, it can be learned, practiced, and mastered. Today, you will discover 5 easy, powerful, and life-changing ways to develop that native-like sound much faster than you think. These techniques are simple, practical, and effective, and you can start using them immediately. If you stay consistent, your English will begin to feel smoother, clearer, and more natural, just the way you've always wanted it to be. So let's begin. Way 1. Master the rhythm before the words. Most learners think that grammar is the key to sounding native, but in reality, rhythm, the music and natural flow of English, is far more important. Every language has its own beat, its own pattern, its own musical structure, and English is no exception. English is not a fast language, and it's not a slow one either. It is what linguists call a stress-timed language. That means some words carry strong emphasis while others are softer, quicker, and less noticeable. And this pattern of strong and weak words creates a natural rhythm that native speakers use without even thinking about it. When English learners speak, they often make the mistake of pronouncing every word with equal force, as if each one has the same weight and importance, and this makes their sentences sound robotic, flat, and unnatural. Native speakers, however, instinctively choose which words to push and which words to relax, creating a rise and fall melody that gives English its signature sound. Take a simple sentence like, "I want to go to the store." A learner might say, "I want to go to the store," stressing every single word and making the sentence feel overly rigid. But a native speaker would say, "I want to go to the store," with the stress naturally falling on go and store, while I wanna and to the become softer, faster, and more relaxed. This difference may seem small, but it completely transforms the sound of your speech. This is the magic of rhythm. Once you hear it, you can't unhear it. Once you learn it, you can't stop using it. The rhythm of English is created through thought chunks, small units of meaning that group words together naturally. Instead of speaking word by word, native speakers speak chunk by chunk. For example, "I want to go así, to the store, later today," where each chunk carries one clear stress point while the rest flows lightly around it. When you shift your focus from individual words to meaningful groups, your sentences immediately sound more natural, more fluid, and more like real English. You stop sounding mechanical and begin sounding like someone who lives inside the language instead of someone visiting it from outside. To practice rhythm, choose a simple sentence and say it with different stress patterns, playing with the strong and weak words until you feel the natural beat forming. Pay attention to how native speakers shorten common words. Going to becomes gonna. Want to becomes wanna. Let me becomes lemme. Did you becomes didja, and don't know becomes dunno. Many learners believe these are slang or informal shortcuts, but they are simply the way English is spoken in natural conversation. When you begin shortening words the way native speakers do, your rhythm improves instantly, because these reductions are the natural glue of English speech. As you continue practicing, you'll notice something interesting happening. Even simple sentences begin to sound smoother, richer, and more connected. Your speech starts to breathe. Your voice starts to flow. You will feel less pressure to pronounce everything perfectly, because perfection in rhythm is not about clarity. It's about movement. When the rhythm is right, the listener understands you effortlessly. And perhaps the most exciting part is that rhythm is one of the quickest improvements you can make as a learner. You don't need years of vocabulary, complex sentence structures, or advanced grammar knowledge. You just need awareness and practice. Listen closely to how native speakers stretch, reduce, and emphasize different parts of their sentences, and try to mirror that musical quality. The more you listen, the more you imitate, and the more you internalize the beat of English, the more native-like your speech becomes. Rhythm is what makes English come alive. It's what makes a sentence feel warm, emotional, and natural instead of cold and mechanical. And once you master the rhythm, even at a basic level, native speakers will immediately recognize something familiar in your voice, something comfortable, something that signals, this person gets how English sounds. That is the power of rhythm. It's not about sounding perfect. It's about sounding real. And flow is the #1 quality native speakers instantly recognize. Way 2. Learn phrases, not just words. Imagine trying to cook a full meal using only raw ingredients, tomatoes, onions, herbs, but without any recipe at all. Even if you had all the right ingredients, it would still take forever to create something delicious. That is exactly what happens when you study English word by word. You gather vocabulary the way you gather ingredients, but without phrases. The real recipes of language. You never learn how to combine them naturally, smoothly, or confidently. Native speakers never think in isolated pieces. They don't think, I plus will plus let plus you plus know. They think, I'll let you know, as one complete idea. They don't think, I plus don't plus understand plus what plus you plus mean. They think, I don't get what you mean, or I'm not sure I get you. Because to them, language is not built word by word, but phrase by phrase. One idea, one chunk, one smooth expression, not 6 separate pieces that feel disconnected. When you begin learning phrases instead of individual words, something powerful happens. Your English suddenly starts to sound like the English people actually use in daily life. Your vocabulary becomes meaningful instead of random. Your speech becomes fluid instead of choppy. Your sentences become natural instead of textbook-like. And the best part? Your brain learns faster when it learns in chunks. This is not just a language learning trick. It's how the human brain is designed to function. Your mind loves patterns, not isolated elements. It loves structure, not scattered pieces. When you learn a phrase, your brain stores that phrase as one single ready-made tool, fully prepared and easy to access whenever you need it. That is why native speakers speak quickly. It's not because they are thinking at superhuman speed. It is because the phrases are already prepared in their memory, and they simply slide out when needed. If you want to sound native, you must commit to this simple yet powerful truth. Learning complete expressions is far more effective than collecting individual words. Don't study finally as a single word. Learn finally got around to it, finally managed to do it, or finally had a chance. Don't study busy by itself. Learn, I've got a lot going on, I'm tied up today, or it's been a hectic week, because those are the real ways native speakers express that idea. Don't memorize angry. Learn, I'm kind of upset, it really bothered me, or I'm not happy about it. These expressions are the beating heart of real spoken English, and when you start using them, people immediately hear something natural in your voice. You don't sound like someone translating in your head anymore. You sound like someone who thinks in English. That transformation happens not because you know thousands of words, but because you know the right combinations of the words you already have. The truth is, you do not need 10,000 words to sound fluent. Most native speakers use far fewer words than that in daily life. What truly creates fluency is the ability to use familiar words in native-like chunks, because these chunks express meaning in the most efficient, natural, and emotionally accurate way. Native-like English is built from small, simple, authentic phrases. Each one is like a building block, and the more blocks you have, the easier it becomes to build clear, smooth, and confident sentences. When you speak in phrases, you stop fighting the language and begin flowing with it. You stop translating and start expressing. You stop sounding stiff and begin sounding real. The shift is dramatic, and the results appear faster than most learners expect. So start listening closely to native speakers. Notice the expressions they use again and again. Repeat them. Practice them. Use them in your daily conversations. Let your mind absorb them naturally. Over time, these phrases become part of your mental library, your personal collection of ready-made tools. And once they become yours, your English changes forever. One day you will open your mouth to speak, and the perfect phrase will come out automatically, without stress, without translation, without hesitation. That is the power of learning phrases, not words. And that is how your English begins to sound effortlessly natural, surprisingly fluent, and unmistakably native-like. Way 3. Use natural transitions, the secret glue of native speech. Transitions are the secret ingredient that no one seems to talk about, yet they are the glue that holds your ideas together, making your speech flow smoothly and sound natural. Native speakers rely on these tiny words and phrases constantly, often without even thinking about it, because transitions are what connect thoughts, express emotions, and guide listeners through a conversation. Without transitions, your speech can feel choppy, fragmented, and disjointed, as if you are dropping one idea and suddenly jumping to the next. With transitions, however, your speech becomes coherent, complete, and confident, and it carries the kind of natural rhythm that makes people want to listen. The problem is that many learners overlook transitions entirely. They speak from one point to another in quick jumps, and their English ends up sounding sharp, abrupt, or disconnected. To understand the difference, imagine two versions of the same thought. A learner might say, "I watched the movie. I didn't like it. The ending was strange, separating each idea like a series of bricks without mortar." A native speaker would say, "I watched the movie, but honestly, I didn't like it. To be fair, the beginning was okay, but then the ending felt kind of strange," effortlessly connecting the thoughts with smooth, natural language. Transitions like, "but honestly," "to be fair," and "but then" add feeling, logic, and flow, and they make your sentences sound human rather than robotic. Some of the most common transitions used by native speakers are surprisingly simple. Words and phrases such as honestly, to be fair, so basically, at the same time, anyway, you know, I mean, as far as I know, and by the way. Each of these connectors immediately softens your speech, conveys emotion, and signals intention. They show curiosity, doubt, opinion, or emphasis without having to explain everything explicitly. Transitions are also powerful tools for controlling your tone. By choosing the right one, you can sound gentle, firm, polite, excited, or casual. For instance, actually, can politely correct someone. Seriously, can show frustration or emphasis. Anyway, can close a topic and so can smoothly open a new idea. Once you begin using transitions naturally, something remarkable happens. Your speech stops feeling like separate, unrelated sentences and begins to feel like an authentic conversation. Conversation is the ultimate goal of language fluency, and transitions are what make it feel effortless. They give your English a rhythm and flow that is impossible to achieve with rigid, disconnected sentences. Even if your grammar is not perfect or your vocabulary is limited, well-placed transitions instantly make your speech sound smarter, smoother, and more native-like. Start incorporating transitions in even the simplest sentences, like adding you know or to be honest when giving your opinion, and notice how your English begins to sound more alive. Over time, these connectors become second nature. You don't need to plan them consciously. They slip into your speech automatically, giving it polish and coherence. The magic of transitions is subtle but profound. They allow your listener to follow your ideas effortlessly. They express your emotions without extra explanation, and they make your English feel conversational, natural, and confident. When you speak using transitions, people stop hearing learner English and start hearing fluent human speech, which is the hallmark of native-like communication. Using transitions consistently may feel strange at first, but with practice, you will notice your sentences begin to flow more naturally. Your tone becomes more expressive, and your English finally starts to feel alive. The beauty of transitions is that even small changes, just a single connector in a sentence, can have a huge impact, instantly improving the impression you make and the clarity of your speech. Once you start thinking in terms of connecting ideas with natural transitions, you will never go back to speaking in isolated sentences again, and your conversations will begin to sound smooth, confident, and unmistakably fluent. Way 4. Speak with emotional tone, not just words. Words alone carry information, but it is tone that carries emotion, and emotion is what transforms English from mere words into speech that feels human, alive, and compelling. This is where many learners struggle. They study grammar, memorize vocabulary, and construct perfect sentences. Yet when they speak, their words come out flat, lifeless, and without emotional expression. Their tone is monotone. Their rhythm is rigid. Their pronunciation lacks nuance, and this creates an invisible barrier between them and native-like fluency. English is not a flat language. It is full of energy, feeling, and movement, and it comes alive when you allow your voice to express emotion. Native speakers intuitively change their tone constantly, subtly or dramatically depending on their mood, context, and message. When they are surprised, they might say, "No way," stretching the sound to express astonishment. When they are unsure, they might say, "I mean, maybe," pausing and softening their voice to signal hesitation. When they are excited, they might say, "That's amazing," with rising enthusiastic tones. When confused, they might say, "What do you mean?" with a questioning, slightly drawn-out intonation. Tone communicates far more than words alone. It allows listeners to understand not only what you are saying, but how you feel about it. To illustrate, consider the simple sentence, "I don't know." Depending on tone, this exact phrase can carry completely different meanings. "I don't know," stated flatly, is neutral and matter-of-fact. "I don't know," stretched with a sigh, can convey resignation or frustration. "I don't know," with pauses between words, communicates confusion or hesitation. And "I don't know," shouted or stressed, conveys strong emotion, urgency, or exasperation. The words are identical, but the meaning, intention, and emotional impact change entirely. Tone is everything, and it is the secret that distinguishes native-like speech from learner speech. To develop this skill, don't be afraid to express emotion with your voice. In fact, begin by exaggerating your tone intentionally, even if it feels strange at first. Over-exaggeration trains your vocal muscles, improves your intonation, and helps your brain internalize the natural movement of English. As you practice, your expressions will gradually become more natural and less forced, but the early exaggeration accelerates the process. Pay attention to how tone can guide meaning. Use rising intonation for questions, falling intonation for statements, a softer tone to signal uncertainty, and a warmer, more inviting tone when you want to sound friendly. Let your voice move. Let it breathe. Let it dance with the meaning of your words, because static, lifeless speech will never sound convincingly fluent. When your tone carries emotion, your English becomes alive. Listeners begin to feel your words, not just hear them, and your conversations gain energy, clarity, and authenticity. This is precisely what native speakers do naturally. They do not merely recite words. They express emotion, intention, and personality with every sentence. And the best part is that you can do this too. With conscious practice, listening to native speakers, mimicking their intonation, and allowing your voice to reflect your feelings, you can develop a naturally expressive tone that makes your English sound vibrant, confident, and unmistakably native-like. Emotional tone bridges the gap between correct language and compelling language, and once you master it, your speech transforms entirely, engaging your listeners and elevating your English from functional to fluent. In short, words alone tell people what you know. Tone tells people who you are and how you feel. The more you integrate emotion into your speech, the more alive your English becomes, and the closer you move to speaking like a native. Way 5. Shadow native speakers. Every day, the most powerful method ever created. If there is one single technique that can transform your English faster than almost anything else, it is shadowing. Shadowing is a method where you listen to a native speaker and copy their speech in real time, mirroring their tone, rhythm, emotion, stress, and speed as closely as possible. It is similar to learning music by playing along with an original track. You are not simply hearing the melody, you are matching it with your own voice until it becomes second nature. Shadowing works because it trains your brain, mouth, ears, and memory together. It forces your body to produce English the way native speakers naturally produce it. Not in slow, textbook-like sentences, but in the smooth, flowing, and authentic rhythm of real-life conversation. When you shadow consistently, your brain starts to recognize patterns automatically. Your tongue learns the positions necessary for new sounds. Your mouth becomes comfortable with native rhythms. Your ears get trained to understand natural speed. And your confidence grows because your speech begins to feel natural and effortless. The transformation can begin in just 5 minutes a day. Even a short daily practice can dramatically improve your pronunciation, intonation, and overall fluency. The key to effective shadowing is choosing the right audio material. It should be simple, clear, conversational, and not overly formal or too fast at first. This can include movie scenes, interviews, YouTubers, podcasts, or audiobooks designed specifically for learners. What matters is that the language is natural, real, and practical, so that you are not just repeating words but internalizing real-life speech patterns. The true magic of shadowing happens when you stop thinking about each individual word and simply let the language flow through you. At the beginning, it may feel awkward. You will miss words, fall behind, or feel slow and uncomfortable. But that discomfort is exactly what makes shadowing so effective, because it signals that you are pushing your brain and mouth to operate at a higher level. As you stay consistent, your voice begins to change. Your pronunciation becomes smoother, your rhythm becomes more natural, and your sense of timing starts to feel automatic, almost as if the English is being produced by habit rather than conscious effort. Shadowing is not new. It is the same technique that actors use to learn accents, the way children acquire language naturally, and the method that will help you unlock native-like speech. It bridges the gap between studying English and actually speaking it fluently. The more you practice, the more the patterns of native speech become internalized, so that when you speak in real life, your brain automatically knows how to produce the right intonation, stress, and pacing. Even short daily practice sessions add up over time. Doing a little bit every day is more powerful than long, infrequent sessions, because repetition is what solidifies these patterns in your memory and makes them second nature. Shadowing encourages active listening, improves your accent, strengthens your confidence, and makes your speech feel alive. Eventually, you will notice that your English starts to sound smoother, faster, and more authentic, and you will begin to express yourself naturally without thinking about each word. If you commit to shadowing consistently, even for just a few minutes each day, the results will surprise you. Your mouth will move more freely, your voice will sound more confident, and your brain will automatically process English in the same way a native speaker's does. Shadowing is not just a technique. It is a shortcut to fluency, a way to bridge the gap between learning and speaking, and a tool that can take your English from competent to convincingly native-like. By listening, imitating, and practicing every day, you will internalize the patterns of natural speech, develop the correct rhythm and intonation, and ultimately gain the confidence to speak English the way you've always wanted. Conclusion: one day you will sound like you always wanted. You don't need perfect grammar, a huge vocabulary, or years of living abroad to speak English like a native. What you truly need are the right habits, consistent practice, and a deliberate effort to train your ear, your tongue, and your rhythm. The 5 methods we've covered: mastering rhythm, learning phrases, using natural transitions, speaking with emotional tone, and shadowing native speakers are simple, practical, and powerful tools that you can start using today. They are not difficult, but when applied consistently, they transform your English from something that feels learned and artificial into something that feels natural, fluid, and alive. Your speech becomes less foreign, more comfortable, less forced, and more native-like. With practice, you will notice the subtle changes. Your sentences will flow more smoothly. Your words will carry meaning effortlessly. Your voice will convey emotion, and your rhythm will match the natural beat of the language. One day soon, someone will hear you speak and ask, "Are you from here?" And you will smile quietly, because you will know just how far you've come. That moment is not a distant dream. It is the result of steady, mindful practice. By focusing on rhythm, phrases, transitions, tone, and shadowing, you are not just learning English. You are becoming a speaker who thinks, feels, and expresses naturally in the language. Every small step you take compounds over time, and gradually, English stops being something you study and starts being something you live. That is the real secret to sounding like a native speaker, and it is completely within your reach.